you, Mr. President. Motion to uncircle first substitute Senate Bill 99.
All in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion passes.
Thank you. Originally, Senate Bill 99 was the natural gas state vehicle requirement, in which it required the state to move 50% of its fleet to natural gas in the next 5 years. But in the meantime, the motor pool come to me and said, you know, that's a little unrealistic, and we'd like to make a few changes here. And so we sat down with them and substituted the bill. And so the bill is now the state vehicle efficiency requirement, whereby it does require them to now purchase, instead of move the fleet, it requires them to purchase 50% of their vehicles as energy efficient vehicles. And so it says the division shall ensure that 50% or more of the new and or replacement vehicles owned by the state are motor vehicles. So these are vehicles to transport people, so it doesn't affect UDOT's trucks. Passenger vehicles with emissions that are equal to or cleaner than these standards. And then it lists the bin 2 standard, which includes now electric vehicles, hybrids, Tier 3 vehicles, and of course, any natural gas vehicles that we'd have. So what it does is simply advances the standard. Now, my thinking behind this, you say, well, why would you do something like this? Well, my thinking behind it is we should be good stewards of our state. The state should set an example for the people that have empowered us to be here. And so by changing this to the way it is now, it had a fiscal note before, where now they feel like they can do it without a fiscal note. They can do it within their normal everyday rotation. So we've been asked, how often do they rotate vehicles? And the standard they use is about every 105,000 miles. So when we originally came up with this, my own personal business, I have 3 CNG vehicles. The first one we purchased 4 years ago, and it cost me $13,000 to convert it. The second one and third one I bought 2 years ago, and it cost me $10,000 to convert them. And Senator Van Tassel just bought a truck, and he converted his, and it did it for $8,000. So these prices are coming down, and so the payoff on them is closer. The clean burn, of course, is better, and it just allows us to become better stewards, better citizens, corporate citizens, state of Utah. So that's what this bill's all about.
Questions to first
Representative Arndt required me to wear my sign today that says clean air, and so I'm for clean air.
Questions to first substitute Senate Bill 99. Senator Okerlund.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to rise in support of this bill. You know, this is one of the bills that can make a real difference out there, and the state showing leadership to be able to allow all of the vehicles that we're talking about, including Tier 3, as those vehicles become more prevalent and as the fuels become more readily available, has a tremendous opportunity to make a huge difference for the air. And so the state showing leadership and the general public being able to follow that leadership and move into these vehicles as they become available is one of the bills that we have that can make a real difference in our air quality. So I commend the senator on bringing this bill forward.
Senator Knudsen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you yield to a question?
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Jenkins, based on your own experience in your business, have you seen any unique maintenance issues with these vehicles?
You know, it's interesting, knock on wood here, I keep waiting for an issue to arise. We've had these vehicles for, this will be the 4th year now, and we've yet to perform any maintenance on them other than the standard oil changes. They burn cleaner. We've had no issues to speak of. And I went out before I run this bill to my shipping manager, and I said, so give me the lowdown. Where's the problems? And he says, gee, so far we don't have any problems. There's a question whether or not there's an issue of finding fueling stations. And, you know, per capita, we have more CNG stations than any state in the nation. So there's websites where you can go and download those. So I just downloaded them and put a copy of it, a little laminated copy in every vehicle. And gee, our guys, we run them. Plus, most of these are mixed fuel. They come with, they come into the state with a regular fuel system, and then you convert them to natural gas. So DWR talked to me a little bit about it and said, gee, you know what happens when we get way out? Well, this will actually double their distance, because they'll still have their gas tank in they can fill up, and they'll have the natural gas as well. So it will actually double the amount of mileage they will be able to run. So no, so far, Senator, it's actually been pretty slick for us. We're pretty happy with it.
Thank you, Senator Jenkins. You are a true pioneer.
Thank you.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a question of the sponsor. Could you give us an idea of what the impact on fuel costs would be?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I'll tell you a little story. This is a great answer. I sent a truck up to Sun Valley the other day, and it was a 1-ton pickup that had a tank in the back, and they drove into Sun Valley, and as they pulled into Sun Valley, my driver noticed that a little monitor in our truck had flipped over to natural gas. So he went ahead, or to regular gas. He ran out of natural gas. So he went ahead and made the delivery. Since we were out of state, we didn't know where a fueling station was, so he drove home on gas. So when he got there, and we discovered what had happened, my guy in the back said, I want you to go over and fill both those tanks up right now so we know what happened. Well, it cost him $22 to drive up there and $77 to drive back. Now, that's within a few pennies, you know. Those amounts I don't remember exactly, but that was basically what happened. So that was our fuel savings. So our experience has been, and I drive high mileage vehicles, so our experience has been that these vehicles pay for the changeover in 18 to 24 months. Now with the state of Utah, that won't be quite the same, because I thought our motor pool put more miles on than they do. But you know, many of these vehicles in the motor pool won't change over or won't reach these standards for 3 or 4 years, where mine are meeting it much faster. But they anticipate that they can do this under their normal budget now, and that it won't cost us extra. So the fiscal note's zero now under this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of this. This is not just something that can lead the way and set an example. If anyone should be setting an example, it should be the state of Utah. And it will save fuel costs, I know that, and it will help our air quality. So I very much applaud the senator from sponsoring this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this bill and congratulate Senator Jenkins for bringing it forward. I looked at buying a CNG car about 7 years ago, and I printed out the list at that time. I ended up changing my mind. And at that time, Senator Jenkins, there wasn't a single CNG fueling station in the entire state of Idaho. So it's probably a good thing that you could switch over to regular fuel. But I hope that businesses and individuals will follow the state's lead and also convert 50% of their new purchases to high-efficiency vehicles. The fact of the matter is, Mr. President, that 56 to 58% of all of the pollution that we're seeing during these winter inversions is coming out of our tailpipes. And so many people have criticized me and other legislators for not doing enough, and this is exactly the type of action that we need to take. Mr. President, another 20% of the pollution from winter inversions is coming from heating our homes. And so I like to remind people that it's us living our daily lives that's causing most of the winter inversions, the PM 2.5s and the other particulates in the air. And I'm deeply concerned about our air quality. But in order to change it, we're going to have to change our habits, and it's our driving and our home heating, which we can't entirely change. So I think this is a giant step in the right direction. And let me just end by saying, last week I sent out kind of a snarky tweet that said, on behalf of the Utah legislature, I'd like to say you're welcome for the clean air, because if we're responsible for it being dirty, if we get blamed when it's dirty, we ought to get credit when it's clean. And that was a little bit sarcastic, but I hope the public takes notice that we are doing our part, and we'll continue to take the steps that make sense. Thank you.
Senator Adams?
Thank you. I'd like to compliment the sponsor also. 2018 is a great goal, but I hope the state actually moves quite a bit faster than that. We're able to convert some of our inefficient buildings because of the cost savings that they generate by making them more efficient, and pay for them without any revenue increase to the state or cost to the state. I think we can do that with these vehicles as we make these conversions. As we've heard how the difference between regular gas and natural gas, I think what a great asset will be to cost savings to the citizens, but also cleaning the air. And thanks, Senator Jenkins, for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Back to you, Senator Jenkins.
Thank you. I got a call the other day from the Standard Examiner, and they said, "Hey, are you the new environmentalist in town?" And I said, "Well, if that's what you want to call it, I guess I am." But I says, more important, I'm hoping that we're the new stewards in town. And I do believe that that's really what this is about, is being a good steward of our environment. And so with that, I'd make a motion that first substitute, SB 99, be read for a third time.
Our committees now, the standing committees are working. We had Senate bills and House bills to address. One of those bills was first substitute 99, and we have the Senate sponsor here, Senator Jenkins, to talk about that, natural gas fueling for our natural gas vehicles for the state. Senator Jenkins.
Thank you. It's good to be here, all of you guys. Well, as you can see today, there was a lot of activity on the floor over the idea of trying to put some standards into the state-owned vehicles, whereby we can replace those with more fuel efficient. And so the motor pool come to me and said, "Look, instead of just making this compressed natural gas, why don't we add the Tier 3 fuels?" And they showed me where the emissions on Tier 3 and CNG were equal. Oh. So it's like, well, gee, it only makes sense if they're that good. I didn't know that Tier 3 was that good, but they are. And then they wanted the opportunity to put in some electricity and hybrids. He says we already use some of those, and we asked them how much of their new purchases were going with these kind of vehicles, and they're in the 22 or 23% range now. So we are already doing some of this. So this is just elevating the standard, to 50%. And like I say, this is about being a good steward, a good environmentalist.
And that answers a great...
It was Mr. Clark here that called me and said, "Are you the new environmentalist in town?"
New environmentalist?
Anyway, it is about being a good steward, though. That's what this is all about. You got to be a good example up here. People are expecting that out of us. And gee, if there's one organization who should be good examples, that ought to be us.